credit to some sleuthing on Fanaboards by EAD Ninja, it appears that Nintendo's latest senior figure to head out the door is none other than Mario Kart legend Hideki Konno. In fact, it seems that he left back in July 2025 after seeing Mario Kart World release. Is this the exodus of Nintendo's developers? Is the time finally here that we are going to say goodbye to a massive number of the people who have come to develop the games we've known and loved for all these years? Age 60, Connor's retirement is slightly earlier than might have been expected given that Nintendo's top brass frequently keep going to 65, but of course not every one of these senior people will want or need to push themselves to continue this long, and Connor himself seems to have been extremely effective at identifying successors during his time at the company. Kosuke Ibuki, who took on the directing reins of Mario Kart in his 20s with Mario Kart 7, is now the producer in charge of the Mario Kart series, as well as EPD9's other projects such as ARMS, and has been for a very long time. In recent years, Konno pivoted to the mobile space, shepherding the company's initiatives around smartphone games, but with the closure of Animal Crossing Pocket Camp and Dragalia Lost, and much of Mario Kart Tour's content now being cannibalized into Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it seems like this branch is now far less of a focus for Nintendo, although of course Fire Emblem Heroes and the new Fire Emblem Shadows remain current concerns of theirs, and Nintendo is having some success with more off-kilter utilization of apps that aren't necessarily versions of traditional games, but new kind of experiences, including Pikmin Bloom, Zelda Notes, and of course Nintendo Today. Now, this adds to other Nintendo ecstasies, with Kensuke Tanabe's recent interview indicating that he is about to be clearing his desk. I posted a video earlier this week profiling his named successor on Metroid Prime, Risa Tabata, who has roots with the Prime series right back to the very beginning, and who has already taken over as Paper Mario's producer as of 2024's The Thousand Year Door remake. Similarly, on Luigi's Mansion, we can probably assume that longtime supervisor of the series, Yoshihito Ikebata, is already picking up the reins for Luigi's Mansion 4 alongside Next Level Games. Ikebata was already named in a 2019 staff update as being attached to Production Group 6, and with Tabata moving over to work in the general production unit a lot more in recent times, apart from her specific ties to Paper Mario and Metroid Prime, it seems likely that this, by now, very large and cumbersome group may actually be split in a future reorganization. I've made the point before, and I saw Kid and Krista speculating on this recently, that there's no real reason to think that Yoshio Sakamoto of Metroid and Famicom Detective Club fame is still at the company either. I would note that his Emio Ask the Developer interview reads very much like a retirement interview, with him confirming that Kaori Miyachi is, as he puts it wryly, the missing heir. In the case of Sakamoto, who is already well past 65 at this point, there is a chance that he stayed on a little because he was closely associated with Tomodachi Life, and that game is obviously still to release. Now, although you might expect there to be some kind of announcement for Sakamoto, if there wasn't one for Hideki Konno, then I doubt Nintendo are going to be releasing any statement. Another likely retiree at some point is 2D Mario legend Takashi Tezuka, who is also the producer, of course, behind Yoshi, Pikmin, and more. While most of Nintendo's top team can slip off quietly into the night unless they especially want to have an exit interview, Tezuka's exit is likely to be more newsworthy because he is an executive officer at the company, and so the personnel change will be a matter of record. Tezuka turned 65 only a few months ago, but given his importance to the company at this point, it is quite possible that, like Miyamoto, he may decide to stay around in an advisory capacity. It's not necessarily the case that retirement is the final end for these people's Nintendo careers either. Kit and Chris have shared anecdotes about former Nintendo president Tatsumi Kimishima, who was 65 when he took on the presidency in 2018, appearing in meetings after he was thought to have retired. Now, game development is obviously slightly different from the financial aspects that Kimishima was involved in, and Kimishima was a lot more senior, but Nintendo does respect these senior craftsmen, and if they were interested in returning to suggest some things and generally be a senior figure at the company, then it's something that I think Nintendo might consider. Also, Takashi has done a fairly good job of lining up successors in his own right. I would expect Yuki Kando to step up as the lead producer of Pikmin, Nobuo Matsumiya to continue in the role of shepherding Yoshi, as well as potentially other Mario spin-offs given his involvement in Princess Peach, while the 2D Mario team benefits not just from 2D Zelda's Shiro Mori, but also Koichi Hayashida, who was for a long time attached as a director and producer to the 3D team before coming over to the 2D group sometime after Odyssey. My suspicion is that Hayashida may be in line for a high-profile promotion sometime this year or next, as if Takashi retires, Nintendo will need a new face of the Mario brand at Nintendo, and Hayashida would make an obvious person to lead these efforts. There are a few other retirements we might look to in the near future. Animal Crossing creator Katsuya Eguchi is a deputy general manager at EPD. While he now has far more diffused responsibilities than just Animal Crossing, which for a long time has been Aya Kigoko's domain, it seems completely plausible that the next Animal Crossing title, which will likely arrive before he turns 65, will be a good grace note for him to retire on. Eiji Aonuma is slightly older and has long been associated with Zelda, but you can see the mechanics afoot for the Zelda teams to actually be split into having multiple successors. Daiki Iwamoto works closely with the Monolith Soft Zelda team, as was explored in a recent public interview. Then we have Tomomi Sano leading the 2D Zelda group, and of course, Hidemaru Fujibayashi is in charge of the mainline Zelda games, although since he is 53 himself, and he's talked specifically about ideas for his next game following Tears of the Kingdom, which suggests that he might well be the director, it seems possible that he could actually remain in the role of director through his time at the company, as he has been for so many decades now, and leave the producing side of things to someone possibly younger who could take the Zelda portfolio forward in the longer term. Finally, one very high-profile retirement we might expect is Shinya Takahashi, the head of Nintendo's whole set of game development operations in Japan since 2015, when Miyamoto moved to becoming a more distant advisory and globe-trotting figure. Takahashi's announcement coincided with a significant reorganization of the Nintendo development operation, and I suspect that another such reorganization is likely to follow his departure, given that the new Nintendo building is currently being constructed. I've got a rather speculative video outlining what Nintendo could look like in this new era, which I will link below and at the end. Now, while Koizumi is Takahashi's number 2 and the obvious successor, we should note that Koizumi is also on the older side, and so while it's very likely he will succeed Takahashi, it's by no means certain, as they might want to make more of a generational leap. It's natural to feel a sense of trepidation here about the departure of these key figures. Obviously, on a personal note, it's probably a bittersweet feeling. It's amazing that they are able to leave behind such indelible legacies that will be remembered probably for as long as the games medium exists. It's happy for them that they'll have the freedom to do as they please, hopefully for decades to come, but also it's sad that these contributions are now at an end. But nevertheless, Nintendo has a very deep bench of producers across various teams. Some, like Kenta Motakura of the 3D Mario and Donkey Kong group, Koichi Karamoto of BBT4, Genki Yokota of Fire Emblem and Xenoblade, Aya Kigoko of Animal Crossing, and Kosuke Ibuki of Mario Kart, are all relatively new to their posts, though I mean that in the Nintendo sense of relatively new, because Kyoko's first producing credit was over a decade ago, and all of these people have significant, very, very long-term investments in the properties they've worked in. These are not people that have just been recruited off the street. Now, if you'd like to see more about the current state of Nintendo's producers behind the scenes, I recommend this video, which was a major research project for the channel through 2025 and surveys the state of the producers. While some videos are turned around relatively quickly, some take weeks or months, and indeed, some of my more ambitious projects have been in development for over a year and hopefully will see the light of day this year. Please consider checking this out, and if you enjoy this deeper cut and more research-based content, then please thank the Patreon members who give me the freedom to dedicate time to it, and of course, you can check out the Patreon below as well. Thanks for watching as ever, and I will look forward to seeing you next time for another Nintendo Forecast.